Welcome to NTR Degree College. My name is M. Jagadishwari, lecturer in English. We are going to take with the third semester syllabus. So, in today's session, we are going to see grammar prepositions. So we are going to improve how this grammar is going to be improved with the new words. To know the vocabulary words, you are going to have to improve rich in vocabulary, where you are going to use the use of the words that are going to be taken from these grammar for the usage of the correct sentences, words and phrases there. So as part of the grammar, you are going to see these prepositions in between these words, phrases and sentences. And what are those prepositions? You can see you will be having of the examples that has to be understood for the prepositions of which you are going to learn to enrich of your vocabulary in the new words there. So what are those new words? So that you will be enhancing of your communicative part of the words and sentences rich in the usage of the language, where you are going to use this appropriate grammar. So nobody is helpful in the usage of the grammar correctly in the saying of the words or phrases or the sentences. So for that itself only you should have to learn the grammar which is going to be given in the form of your correction of your sentences that can be taken into our communicating ideas from all four skills. While you are going to have your listening, speaking, reading and writing, these are the four skills which adopts you the vocabulary of the items that may enhance you or that may takes you in the perfectness of knowing of the words in which you are going to use in the work of the grammar there. So you should not at all feel that this grammar is complicated or even it is very difficult to learn. So for that itself, when you are going to learn like these small words or phrases are in a sentences, you can use perfectly or appropriately. Making the words in a sentence can be used. So as part of this, you can have the today's session, you can have these grammar. As part of the grammar, you are going to learn these prepositions. From childhood classes itself, you are knowing what are these prepositions, articles, then what are the different types of sentences, then what are the voices. You can know about part of speech which is going to be lying in you. So as part of that part of speech, you should have to deal with today's class is the prepositions. You should have to know well about prepositions in which you are going to learn from it. Then what are these prepositions? You can see. Prepositions, it shows. So prepositions show relationship between two words or in a sentence. So this is a relationship. So you can have to understand that it is of a relationship. Prepositions show relationship between two words. Words, then sentences. So these prepositions show relationship between two words or two words in a sentence. So the relationship between these two words in a sentence, either it may be between noun or pronoun and a verb or a two nouns or pronouns there. So you can have better to use that there exists, prepositions exist a relationship between two words in a sentence, the relationship may be between a noun and a pronoun. So either it may become into the noun or pronoun, and verb are two nouns there. So you can have to use of these noun, pronoun, nouns and pronouns. So you can have to show the relationship between these are four words there. Noun is there, pronoun is there and verb is there. So what is noun you can have? Then noun you can give the examples for nouns. What are the different kinds of nouns? And also its example which is very related to these nouns. Then similarly when you take on the focusing of these pronouns, then you can use of these pronouns there. Then instead of noun you are going to use of this pronoun there, where that shows a relationship by the using of these prepositions that can be added in the words of a sentence. So this is nothing but you can have the prepositions of the words where they can be used in the following sentences. So these are again with the examples you can see. First one you can see the rat was caught in the trap. The rat was caught in the trap. You can see where the underlined was caught. Was caught is there and the trap is there. So the trap is there. You can use the words of these. Verb is there. Verb, preposition plus noun. So noun, verb and preposition it is there. So you can use of these noun, verb and preposition. So the verb is there, noun is there and the preposition is there, where you can have to see the different kinds of the words which are going to show the relationship in this sentence. So that is nothing but you can have the example of verb, noun and prepositions that you can see in the following sentence. So secondly you can see the player kicked the ball. The player kicked the ball into the goal. Into the goal. So you can see where you can see the player, the ball is there and kicked into the goal is there. So this goal you can have to see with the noun, preposition and noun. So this into is there and noun is there and preposition where you are going to use this noun, then preposition with the goal you can see where the player kicked the ball into the goal. So these are the following prepositions where you can use of these into the sentences that can be used there. So these are the things where you are going to use as per the sentences that are being given, and those are being added into these phrases where you are going to understand with the perfect examples there. So you can have the two different words in a sentence, how far it is going to be used there. The player kicked the ball into the goal, and the rat was caught in the trap there. So you can use of all these verb, preposition, noun and noun, preposition, noun is there. So these are the two different sentences where you can have the seeing of the two different examples where these prepositions can be used there. So these are the kinds of the prepositions where you are going to see in the words or in a sentence. At last you can have the idea that there is a relationship between a noun and a pronoun or a verb, or two nouns or with the pronoun there. So these can be used in different following of the sentences, where you can use of these grammar words that can insert into the sentences there. So those are nothing but you can use of these grammar where the identification of the words and sentences can be corrected in the middle of the words there. So these are the things that can be used for these prepositions, where you can use the following examples can be understood by the writing of few more again. So you can have the practice of a few more sentences that can be very well to be understood by you and can be known from all the different exercises that can be used there. So I think you can better understood by the two examples of these words. So these are all the things which you can understand from the grammar. With the following of these two sentences, you can use in a different form of the sentences by accessing of you from your own sentences that can be used from you in using of different illustrations of examples there. That can be taken into the consideration of all the things there. Then you can have again some part of the grammar which is going to relate with the showing of different kinds of prepositions there. And what are those kinds of prepositions that you can have with the usage of these some kind of prepositions that can be seen from these. So better you can see from these. You can have from these. You can have these prepositions and its kinds. Prepositions, then kinds of prepositions. What are the different kinds of prepositions for those? You can use again here simple prepositions, and where these simple prepositions are used again, you can take with the examples of these simple prepositions where they are being used in between inserting of the words or sentences there. So what are those sentences? You can see what are those simple prepositions. In those simple prepositions you can use of the following examples or these. What are they? First one is it, then by, then for, then in, of, then you can use of OFF on, then OFF off, on, then out, through, then till, to, till is there, to is there, up is there, with is there, etc. you can put there. So these are the things. So just for understanding of these itself, where these simple prepositions are going to be learned from you by the usage of the following simple prepositions which are going to be inserted in between the words or in a sentence. So in a sentence, now you can have the identification where these simple prepositions are used. What are they? At is there. At, by, by, for, in, fof off, and off off, on, out out, through, trough, through, and till is there, till, and to is there, to, and with is there. So these are the kinds of the examples of the simple prepositions where you can have to insert in between the words in a sentence. So you can write with many number of examples for this: at, by, for, in, of, on, out, through, till, to, up. So these are the examples where you can have the identification of understanding of these simple prepositions with the following examples. Then slowly you can have to note, you can have to better to improve of your exercise 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 and 10 to 13. You can have with the quoting of the different exercises where you are going to insert of these examples in between, and you can make it into the number of sentences in between which the grammar words of the prepositions are inserted there. So these are the simple prepositions you can have with the illustration of the examples there. The book is at the table. She is by near the seashore. I am asking for pen. So these are the few examples where you are going to quote with the having of these simple prepositions. So for these you can have the little bit of examples in the exercises where that is going to be taken for you. So after this you can come to these compound prepositions. Compound prepositions. So where you are going to use these compound prepositions. Compound prepositions. So what are these compound prepositions? How they are going to use in between the sentences are the examples again: above, then about, across, along, among, along, among, then around, before, behind. Behind is there, below, beside, between, below, beside, between. Then you can also keep inside, outside, inside, outside, without. Some again extra with the examples. Then you can see here the other format of the compound prepositions. Simple are again with the different from the compound prepositions where you can have to show in a large bit of phrases of the sentences in between them. So those where you can use of these compound prepositions are above, about, across, along, among, around, before, behind, below, beside, between, inside, outside, with, in, without. So from these words of the compound prepositions, similarly you can also quote with the number of sentences which is going to make not only with the 2 or more words that constitutes of noun, pronoun, verb also. So you can use these following words of the prepositions examples in the following sentences where you are going to understood by the compound prepositions in the following sentences. These are the compound preposition words where you are going to insert in between the following sentences where those words are being inserted to show the correct format of the compound prepositions that can be seen. So these are again you can use with the following examples. I sat along by the river side and my bank is along at the edge of the corner, and also he is coming inside into the house. Then I am within. We are there within ourselves. We are coming to the class without any preparation. Then the pen is below the book, or the cap is below the table. Being beside, he is going to sat, or he is going to watch the picture. So 2 and 3 between the members are sitting together. 2 and 3 members are being sitting together besides the seashore. So that can be, you can use the number of following sentences where you are going to understand of these compound prepositions with the following of these each and every example. So 4 to 8, 8, 13 are there. You can use in a number of sentences so that you can betterly understand of the following of these compound prepositions by using of the exact sentences that can be read by you. Then after these compound prepositions, you can have phrase prepositions there. Phrase, again phrase in the sense, phrase, 2 or more words in a sentence can be called as phrase prepositions. So these phrase prepositions. So these phrase prepositions again you can use in between more than 2 or more words there, and that can be taken into the consideration of these phrase prepositions there. Then what are the examples of these phrase prepositions that are going to be inserted in between the following sentences? Those are, one is agreeable. So you can have with the examples of these agreeable to. One more is according to, owing to. Then this is according to, owing, O-W-I-N-G, owing to. Then you can use because of, in addition to, with a view to, so that you can have the new examples with a view to. Then in accordance with, in accordance with, on behalf of, So on behalf of, the more examples you can find where you are going to understand of these phrase prepositions there. So what are these phrase prepositions? Where these are going to be used in between the 2 or more sentences, the phrase words are being added that can be taken into the phrase prepositions of the examples that can be inserted in between the words of a sentence there. So those are again agreeable to. So agreeable to is one more word that is being introduced, and one more the word is agreeing to, owing to, because of, in addition to, with a view, in accordance with, on behalf of. These are the words of the phrase prepositions where you are going to finally make your prepositions into the usage of the following examples that can be taken into the showing of the inserting of these prepositions in between them. So for these things you can have few more examples in the writing of these prepositions that can be used there. So now we have